was up. There was a tiny mistake with the previous stream, and hopefully we will get back going in no time. Where's Sandy? There's Elijah.
Sorry, Chezi was speaking with us a bit in the other.
Oh, okay.
In the other one.
Well,
he was trying to tell us that he definitely wasn't a Christian.
Oh, glad to hear it.
I'm unconvinced.
You weren't convinced. Yeah, so that stream ended abruptly because somebody pressed the wrong button.
That's okay. He was just talking about something. I literally just read. He said something like, if a prophet came and... Oh. Here we go. More, if a prophet asserts, with reference to any law of the Torah, that the Lord has revealed to him, that the law is thus, or that the law is in accordance with so-and-so, he is a false prophet and is to be strangled, even if he performed a sign, for he has come to contradict the Torah, which it says, it is not in heaven. The prophet, the transcendent man par excellence, has no right to encroach upon the domain of the sages who decide the law on the basis of their intellect and knowledge.
Yes. What about it?
I don't know. Chezi was just saying that like a prophet could come and clarify something, or I don't know what he was saying.
Well, I mean,
exactly.
there is this idea of tiku, tishbi yavo, right? That's
maybe that's what he said.
Yeah, Elijah will come and clarify things, but there ultimately, I mean, I did a stream on that. That's part of the Talmud. There's a famous part of the Talmud known as Oven of Achnai, which talks about the Torah not being in heaven.
Yep.
And so Chezi says Horat Sha'ah. Chezi, you can join again if you like, but
that would be good.
Ultimately, I hope we're not saying very different things. That the Torah of Mashiach will be Chadash, will be something that is new in that it will, in fact, reveal things which we have not been able to see yet. At the same time, that's Ein Chadash Tachat Hashemayim. There's nothing new under the sun. And that's so it cannot contradict what the Torah is. And so look up Horat Sha'ah. I know what Horat Sha'ah is. I still don't know what you mean. I mean
temporary law.
Yeah, it's a guidance for the moment, but that moment cannot be eternal. And so ultimately, I mean, the Torah is emet because it is true from its beginning through its middle and at the end. So it's not a contradiction. What do you mean it can contradict? Okay, I have no idea if you're just trolling me or you're just a koifer, but like ultimately,
yes,
all of the above. Yes, go ahead.
When he was talking before, he was saying something about not so much that it was different but deeper, so that it's, you know, when you're talking about that you haven't seen it before, if I had understood him correctly, it would be that Well, like, so in a sense, when I was speaking at the beginning and I was talking about how I was reading the portion from this week in the book and looking back on my life and reflecting, nothing actually changed except how I saw it. So in one sense it was the same, and in another sense it was new or different, but it hasn't really changed, just that I've seen more or more deeply into what I had thought about before. Like when I was asking your opinion about some of those things where how we engage with our understanding of your life before, your life now, the Christian context of standing up and giving a testimony. From what I would learn from reading through the scripture, I might perceive something one way and not stand up and say it. And you were saying that Jews don't talk about your sins, but that sometimes
Yeah.
you might. Well, I'm wondering if it's kind of one of those, but sometimes.
Well, okay, so I mean, Chazi is trying to say that, and this goes back to what I was discussing with Father Stephen last night, which is it economia, what he calls a, like, if somebody who's divorced gets married again, is it a dispensation from the ideal? Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a dispensation from the ideal that is within Torah, because the Torah talks about divorce, right? And so it's not that pork will ever be kosher. That's not what will ever happen, right? But what may happen, and is quite likely, I mean, how I would not be surprised if it happens, is we are going to, in fact, stop killing all animals. And a pork and a pig is suddenly going to be indistinguishable from a cow in the nature of its kashrut, right? But again, this goes back to not annihilating, right? A unification that is not an annihilation. It's not getting rid of that journey, right? And that's part of the problem. I mean, I often have with Chezi, he talks about putting the pack down, where I think he's trying to cut off parts of the ladder we're standing on, right? It's like, no, we're never going to. I don't believe there's ever going to be a time where kitniot. So this is one of the famous things, which is on Passover, some Jews don't eat things like beans, which for a time for a time in Europe, what would happen is that these things would be milled with wheat, and so since there was so much wheat often mixed with them, that those communities stopped eating those things as well, right, on the Passover, right? And Chazi is like, okay, so Ashkenazim should be able to eat kitniot. This is not a thing anymore, right? And to some extent, I agree with him. But the reason I agree with him does not negate that experience of the Ashkenazim. Does not negate that has become part of the history of the Jewish people. And it doesn't cross out or erase the parts of the Shulchan Aruch which talk about kitniot on Passover, right? And so it's really important that this distinction between annihilation and I mean, what really bothers me is things like 1 Corinthians 9, where Paul says, the Torah says you shall not muzzle an ox while it's working, right? Does the Torah care about animals? It must be speaking to us, saying that human workers should be able to eat and profit from what the work that they do, right? And then I have to ask Christians, well, does that mean that if you have an ox, you can muzzle it while it's threshing? And for way too long, the Christian answer has in fact been, oh yeah, like God doesn't care about animals.
What?
It has
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I have a question. This is going to be a bit more technical, maybe. So I just watched a lecture about Davka or La Davka?
Love Dafka.
Lav Davka, where they say like, where it seems like the Tosafot, they'll make exemptions. So they were giving an example in Eruvin 104a, where Rabbeinu Tam says that like, because they said you can't draw water on the Sabbath with a water wheel.
Mm-hmm.
However, he says, well, they had big water wheels, and here in Europe we have small water wheels. Therefore, the ruling doesn't apply.
Okay.
So how is Chezi doing something different than what the Ashkenazim already do to that? But they're to halacha, but that's just with minhagim.
Well, okay. I mean, this is the question of the halachic process, right? And it's and see, this is what I really don't like. Like Chezi says, Rav Kook says, the Talmud is the great band-aid of exile. We came home, time for true healing, which is kind of like, oh, throw it away. And it's like, no, we don't throw it away, right? The Talmud is never going to cease being a integral part of Jewish life, ever, Chazi, ever. And so, I mean, Dafka, Lav Dafka, do we differentiate, do we apply? That ultimately comes down to a communal decision. And if the Jewish community decides ultimately that you know, everybody's going to eat kitniot, right? Everybody's going to eat beans on Passover, right? That the question is, I mean, one of process. And frankly, like, this is part of my problem with Chezi's Zionism, is he wants to say that we've arrived at some place where it's like, where are you getting this from? And it does seem very Christian to me, where he's like, oh, something's changed, and now the Torah is different. And it's like, no, until you can show me that's so Chezi says, to be clear, I'm not a rabbi and I don't tell people to start eating kitniot. There's me in my house. Right. But I mean, someone needs to say it. I hear that's what's changed.
Doesn't it say in the Torah that the Levites are supposed to be the teachers of the people?
There's definitely Levites who were very important teachers of the people. but those Levites wash the hands of the Kohanim, and for some reason, Chazi's decided he doesn't like to do that. So he can't claim the prerogatives if he refuses to do the work. Okay, Chazi, either jump on or honestly, ultimately, like, these are kind of the things that I myself sort of resigned myself from, like, because I don't know that this level of detail ultimately matters.
Very Jesus-y too.
Look, I think I think ultimately when it comes down to it, there is a question of like actual priorities, and I think one of the things Chazi and I agree on is it seems that the Orthodox Jewish community may have lost its priorities, at least in my estimation. Which is why, like, I've been waiting for like 2 months now for the Yanuka's book that Chazi sent me to arrive, and it looks like it's never going to arrive, which is really sad. Because I do wonder if he is making a difference in reordering the priorities of the Orthodox Jewish community the way the Rebbe did, and the Rebbe really did. I mean, when you see this is part of what makes me think the Rebbe would have been Mashiach in his time. Is that thank you very much, Chessie. Yosef says, after PBK's video today, I think you have what to discuss with him, Chazi, about a church culture that doesn't feel like it can go back and overturn a previous Sanhedrin. It's actually funny watching that video about the CRC. So it's all the fault of people like Chazi and Yosef and this little corner, but I've been going to this Reformed synagogue, God have mercy on my soul, and my friend who is the rabbit there sent me a gift membership, and she's like, you should join. And I'm like, I can't be a member of a Reformed synagogue. And then I was like, okay, fine, I'll join. So I joined. But I told her, that doesn't mean I agree to anything that Reform believes. Yosef says Zionism makes you reform. Ooh, yes. Zionism has made me into. The Zionists have turned, and the Christians have turned me into a reformed Jew. God have mercy on my soul. Which reminds me, Chazi, you were supposed to be in charge of figuring out. Father Stephen asked me yesterday if there's a formal process by which Noachites are accepted into the community. And I explained it to him, and it reminded me, Chazi, you were supposed to be in charge of the Noachites in this community who wanted to formally become Noachites, remember?
Sandy, do you have anything else you want to talk about in Halakhic Man?
How I get to reading it much more smoothly than I do, although I always seem to find something significant. So,
All right then. Well, it seems like we decided on 2 more meetings. So the next one will be pages 99 through 117. That will be on April 13th.
Okay.
Same bat time, same bat channel. And
You're
I
far
will be
too
putting
young to know
in.
that saying.
I'll be putting up a little poll or just getting some input for the next book we will read. Hopefully with more people. Andrew probably will join too, so that'll be nice. All right.
It's good to be able to do it. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for the discussion again.
Yep, no problem.
Yosef says, "Who's the Beit Din? Chezi, Jacob, and me." No, I can't be on it on the Beit Din. I'm not Shomer Shabbos. I'm not a kosher aide. How can I be a dayan?
This man bowls on Shabbos. Can you believe it?
Actually, the three of us need to have a stream one of these days. As soon as Yosef finishes his freaking dissertation.
I mean, he said that he did an hour of work earlier in the Discord today, so an hour a day. He's chugging along.
It was due a year ago. It's a year late. I am not mocha. I do not forgive.
All right. Well, I should probably go to bed. I have to get up early tomorrow.
Have a good evening.
Good evening.
He said it was his actual job, not even his dissertation.
He actually has a job, believe it or not. He has a wife. He has a kid.
He's a busy man.
Yosef, my anxiety can't take your dissertation taking this long.
You're
I'm sorry.
This family apart, Yosef. You're tearing this family apart.
You are tearing this family apart, Yosef. Finish that effing dissertation. Don't make me curse on a Halakhic man stream.
That's right.
The Rav would not approve.
Yeah. I had an invite to watch my one of my son's friends defend her thesis. So if you take too long, just think of all the people who will want invites to whatever you have to do for this dissertation.
Oh, if his dissertation defense is online, can you imagine the number of people who would show up?
It's becoming famous.
Okay, I am going to end this broadcast.
Bye.